Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and I'm coming to you live from the Mighty Beard Tavern, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host. We got Stormslord. How are you, sir?
Doing awesome, doing awesome.
Great to have you here. We also have the one, the only Alpha Soul.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
And the apex predator himself, Crowjack.
The rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. I am not going anywhere.
Were there
I'm
rumors?
sorry I wasn't here last week. I'm sorry.
I know. It was an interesting...
I slept in. My alarm didn't go off. I was sick.
Dog ate my homework.
Yeah, dog ate my homework. What do you do? I haven't worked at a job in ages. How do you call in dead again? How do you call in sick again? I've got the plague. A skunk sprayed me.
There you go. Anyway, all of
Learn
those
this
things.
one. My daughter threw
All
it
of
on
it.
me. It's easy.
I just don't go into work, I guess. I don't know. Seems fitting. We had a fun show planned for you guys. I know if you're watching us live with twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawl Network, we are coming to you on a different day due to I called in sick yesterday. Actually, yeah, it was, and I got to thank my co-hosts for being so flexible in this one. I think I literally gave them 30 minutes notice of, hey guys, we're going to do the show. 10 minutes. Guys, I'm not feeling it. We got to redo this. Sorry, I'm out. So, but I'm feeling
He
much
says
better.
we're flexible, but for those who know me, I can barely touch my knees, nonetheless my toes. I'm the least flexible person you'll ever know, so...
Hey, I got that in common too.
Yes! I'm not alone!
Side story, but this is actually really funny because when you mentioned flexibility, years ago, mind you, I used to take judo. I love judo, by the way, but we'd always do stretches before any of the bouts. So I'm sitting there doing little stretches like, oh yeah, I got this. There were people in there who were like, bend over, like you're standing up and you're bending over trying to see how far you can pull yourself down. I'm like, if these are my legs, I'm like this. There's people who are like pulling their head through their legs and coming up I'm like,
Oh my god!
how are you doing that?
Human pretzels.
Yeah, like it was amazing. Most of them were gymnasts, but still, I'm like, I'm barely able to like bend over all the way without like falling over. These people are like, well, to get a really good stretch, I have to go all the way around and like scratch my own back.
Myself.
It was insanity, just complete insanity. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into what we're going to be talking about this week. First and foremost, we have a quick PSA about the website and possibly new launcher features coming. Steven hopped on and gave us a little bit of a Q&A. I feel like he gave more answers about last week's podcast, like a day after we did the podcast. Either A, he was responding to questions of people who watched our show and decided we should get, real answers, or he listens and just does it. I don't know. Could be either or. Anyway, some fun stuff there. And then we're going to jump into a religious progression, hence the title of this episode. And of course, the image I use is Crowjack's favorite weapon in every game.
It's a beautiful weapon in the Battle Royale.
Yeah.
The Bone Smasher.
Bone Smasher. Anyway, I got to give a special shout out to all of our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network, as well as our Twitch subs here who gain access to all of our shows at least 24 hours early. You guys help support the network and keep the metaphorical torches lit. We also have a new iTunes review, guys. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
This actually comes from Moreto from Brazil, actually. From the Ashes is amazing. When you have heard of a podcast with almost 2 years and still running of content about a game still in development, yeah, that's a question. So when have you? There he goes. When have you heard of a podcast with almost 2 years? And that is true. We're actually coming up on 2 years in like 2 months, I think.
Jeez.
Yeah. About a game still in development. Aggelos, Crowjack, Alpha and Stormslord, and maybe returning in the future. Thais are a great team saying all the real words, and they always matter. Ashes of Creation will be the MMORPG that will not leave the gamers behind, and by listening to this podcast, you always have the most recent news about this brave new world. That was an awesome review. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
that.
Nice. Thanks.
That was great. I love getting ones from around the world, so I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for that 5-star review. And that's how you can help support the show as well. That lets people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes they matter. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right on into the show because we got a lot to talk about. The migration happened yesterday for Amazon Web Services, the back end. It seems like it went down without a hitch. It took about 6 hours or so, but they moved off of the Microsoft Azure platform into the AWS platform completely now. So now they're not running in a weird hybrid of the two. They did mention a new launcher will be available more likely than not. I'm curious. I knew they had Microsoft Azure and partly AWS. I'm wondering if we'll see any performance increases by going all to AWS. But I don't know what was running on what. Was the web services, which I assume because the accounting services went down, was on Azure, and then going to AWS, or were they using that for the server architecture? Thought?
Good question.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell until we see it.
Well, the account services were off, so I'm assuming part of that, unless they are so integrated already, which they may be, if you think about it, because we can already purchase things from the Battle Royale store, Apocalypse store, and it integrates with our account. I don't know. Maybe there is a reason why the account services went down that don't necessarily just relate to the, just the web post, but it's nice to see it's done, right?
Yeah.
Does this mean we're going to see the forums sooner than later, now that this has been done? The forums that have been down for 2 months?
Is it 2 months now?
I think we're close to 2
Something
months.
like that.
It's a while. I know that. It's been. Is it a good long while? I don't know. I would hope they'd have the forums back up. I'm just glad they're now working on one consistent back end.
Yes.
Because I know Storms could probably give a little bit more light on this, but anytime you're dealing with two different backends, you then have to work with integrations to get them to work together, which is often messy because they're not
Especially
really.
if you haven't done it before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. So there we go. That was just a quick PSA. Moving on to the next bit of news, which was Steven jumped on to the official Discord, and they had a little brief Q&A early last week. And I kind of want to highlight a few things here real quick. Did anyone read through any of this stuff ahead of time, besides myself?
Nope.
Nope. All
Phil
right.
I
said
believe
no.
so.
All right. That's fine. That's fine. Fine.
Wanted to be a surprise.
Okay.
Sure. That reason right there.
Well, let's start off with the director's letter, because there's a handful of questions, I guess I should say, that relate very, very quick or very, very closely to that. I know first off, one of the questions that was asked was, having made that official, not knowing what that is in context, but do you still hold true to the before 2020? Steven mentioned that. I'm still waiting on a few answers. Now, this relates to the director's letter, because we have 3 questions on here that all came. How's the producer's letter coming along? Will we get it this week? And this was as of last week. No. And leaderboards were asked about, and he's like, most likely this month leaderboards will be available, but as stated, I'm waiting some answers before I can complete the letter. He did pop on Discord and said that the letter is most likely coming out next week.
Yep.
Alpha Soul?
Yeah, that's I think that was the latest thing, is that they're trying to get it out next week, but he's still waiting on official or some like last minute things to see if they'll be able to do it by next week. So so my guess is we might, hear or see something by that time. Actually, I did have an interesting question kind of going off of that. What is everyone expecting out of it?
Delays?
I'm going to take a deep breath here. I'm expecting delays. I'm expecting clarification on...
Outside. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm expecting clarification on their plans with APOC. specifically how much attention they're putting into the battle royale, how much attention they're putting into the castle siege, etc. They did mention the roadmap for 3 or 4 months out from the point they give us the letter, which is useful. I'm expecting that they're going to have this delay, and they're trying to find the nicest, most appropriate way of wording it to mitigate as much damage as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That in and of itself doesn't take weeks and weeks to do. He has to be waiting for something, has to be waiting for some form of, whether it's a business partnership transaction to go through, whether it's a feature to be finished, developed on, I don't know what it could be, but something is causing this delay where he's not able to give us everything yet. I wonder what it is.
Well, population is they're still trying to figure out how to fix what they broke. Then, in order to say how long it's going to take, they got to know what they got to do. If they just realize because of their tests what they've broken and need to be rewritten from the ground up, they need to figure out what to do so they don't do this again, and B, they're gonna, if they were gonna do this, I would think the way they'd want to do it is they'd want to continue with the APOC testing, because how else would you know if you fixed it or not? If you switch over to Castle Siege right away, how do you know you fixed the problem? You don't know.
Can they not run some form of remote testing that doesn't require us to do the testing ourselves? Is there a way of automating that testing process?
Not the way they're doing it. Not the way you'd want to see the right results.
Okay.
You could jury rig, and you're not going to get a good result.
Interesting.
Now, what I actually more meant, though, was what do we want to see from the letter?
What do you want to see?
Yeah. Because if it's supposed to be, if it has this much information, I think off the top of my head, I'd probably want to see, obviously the MMO timeline, how specifically that is affected by anything that they announce, or if it's still on track. The site status itself, forums, all that good stuff, blog updates, basically what their plans are, kind of like you said, Kojak, with the Battle Royale. Are they planning on keeping this thing 24/7? Are they still marching toward that 24/7 plan? What are they doing? Which I imagine they would have to, unless they're going to refund people for what they bought. But yeah, whatever. And a roadmap basically.
What I want to see in the letter is that everything's hunky-dory and everything's as scheduled and everything's going great. That's what I would love to see, but that's not what we're going to see. So what I want to see is transparency and clarity. I don't need hard dates. Hard dates are stupid when it comes to this kind of a development process.
Yeah.
I would like to see approximate dates. I would like to see what they're prioritizing. I would love to see a list of things they're currently working on so that I know that they're aware they're going to work on this and this and this and this. That'd be great to see. Just transparency, clarity, understanding that if there's going to be a delay, that people are going to be upset, and that's fine. We'll all get over it eventually. But yeah, transparency, clarity, and a direction. Right now it feels like we're all sitting in the middle of the ocean on a boat with no compass and no heading of where we're going. As we all sit here and wait for this letter to come to give us our heading. That's what we need. Something to look forward to, something to aim towards.
Yeah.
I say we do a weekly podcast about the game. So yeah, I know that feeling better than most.
Yeah, I wanted to be a content creator specifically focusing on this game. And as a content creator, I'm absolutely disappointed and frustrated. As a Kickstarter backer, I'm frustrated. And as a fan of MMOs, I'm frustrated. But as an adult, I get it. It sucks, but I get it.
Right.
I thought of something today. Are you guys, I don't think any of you other guys are playing Anthem, right?
I played a little bit of it.
Yeah. So I've noticed every company that launches these games that are more MMO geared or live service, and they say that they have a date that they're going to launch it, they always fall on their face whenever they hit it.
100%.
Like always, and it's almost crazy at how frequent it actually is, and the games simply aren't ready by the time, right? The only times that I see where it kind of where it works out is where they don't actually say when the heck they're going to launch. Like Cyberpunk 27, it's not the same live service type of a game, but they haven't said when they're going to release it. They just said roughly maybe 2018 or maybe 2019, maybe. People think it's going to come out, but they haven't said squat, and they're not going to do so until they're ready, right?
Yep.
So I mean, delays are a part of the game. They're going to happen. It's just
Delays are fine.
Yeah.
But
Intrepid's dirty laundry is out in the open, is what I'm trying to say.
This company has two issues. One is a Kickstarter MMO, and that has its own issues. And two, they started with a Battle Royale, and that has its own issues. What this company needs to do is to get the MMO alpha, at the very least, into our hands so that it can assuage and just diminish the fears of its player base, of its potential fan base. People who are afraid that because it's a Kickstarter MMO, it's going to be in development for forever. And people who are afraid that because of the Battle Royale, that they're going to focus on that and forget the MMO. Give us an alpha testing, and at that point, everyone can calm down, and we can be more patient with the development process.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been, well, I shouldn't say, there has been insane precedents for Kickstarted MMOs, specifically indies, to go in and, I guess, overshoot their launch dates. I'm looking at, both Crowfall and Camelot Unchained, which we talked about last time, which are now years behind.
Yeah.
And by years, I don't mean like one, I mean multiple. Camelot Unchained is like 5 years behind.
Jeez. Every time you say that, I forget, and I'm like, my God, 5 years.
Yeah, like, if you go back and look at the original Kickstarter page, they wanted to be out, or like in beta testing, if I remember correctly, by like 2014 or whatever. They're like, summer 2014. It's still only closed. And I mean, they did a lot. So I'm not crapping on their work. I have a lot of respect for Mark Jacobs and what he's doing over there. But things happen. They essentially had to do a massive rebuild from the ground up. And that set them back a very, very, very long time. But even Crowfall, that only had to do partial rebuilds. I think they had to rebuild their combat system because they realized that the combat system they had in the beginning just wasn't fun to play. And they're just like, nope, this has to go.
I wonder if they're going to come to, or the Intrepid is going to come to a similar conclusion based off of the Battle Royale feedback they had regarding its combat system and how it's felt in the hands of people. Because there's a lot of people who have said it feels clunky, it feels weird, it feels floaty, there's no weight to the combat, etc. I wonder if they've taken that into account, and in their letter, they're going to talk about changing the combat system that they have right now. Again?
Wait, for the Battle Royale, or
just in general? Using what the feedback they received from the Battle Royale, because they want the hybrid system in the MMO, maybe they don't like the way the action combat works. Maybe. And they want to change things moving forward. Curious.
For me, with this letter, because we are talking about the letter briefly again, I do want to. I'm looking at a timeline. I don't want them to go overshoot everything. I like how Matt Firer from the ESO does it. He does his Road Ahead, which is his once-a-year director's letter, that he really only focuses on what the studio's accomplished so far, their highlights for the year. And now this is for a release game, so let's take this with a little bit of, they actually have highlights for the year. But a little bit of, this is what we've been doing. You guys have seen this. This is our plan for the coming year. Now, with this letter, that's what I want to see. But with let's go over that first half of the letter, they need to address in detail from a transparency side what failed. Because even we talked about it last week based on our own knowledge about what they've openly said about the game. I want to hear from the horse's mouth, sorry, Steven, that this is exactly what went wrong.
How many pages is this letter going to be?
You want it to be succinct enough that you don't get lost in the ad nauseum of tech speak.
One, but
yeah,
don't know if it can be.
Yeah. But I want to hear what they're rebuilding. What's going to be the issue. I also want to hear about some of their additional services. I saw chat was asking a question about, do we know what the team that was hired in January is working on? My thought is, do we also know how the website team is coming on? Because let's face it, they got rid of the last website team, brought in a new one, and yet we're still having issues. I mean, the forums aren't up yet. There's still people who haven't been able to log in. I specifically got pinged today on Facebook asking, guys, I still can't log in. In which case I was like, well, you have to open a ticket. I can't do anything. I'm just a fan podcast. But hey, people are still having issues even signing into their accounts. So I think there's more going on. I want to hear about what they're currently working on. I'd like to also see some how do I want to say this? I'd like to see some not concept art,
New
models, assets from the modeling team. Because what have they been doing? Like,
didn't they release that bear?
Yeah, they did. They
Yeah,
did
yeah.
release.
Oh, but more along those lines, right?
Yeah, I mean,
give us a
Yeah.
bunch of that. Encourage us and remind us that this MMO is still in development and continues to be in development.
we've not seen any assets from the Kickstarter. You know,
What?
no. I mean the assets that
Nothing
from
new.
the
Yeah.
you know, like, hey, this is what the Phoenix aura looks like for those backers, or this, you know, we see concept art. Then they come out with the monthly concept art, which I don't know if you guys have been to the Reddit or whatnot, but I think they pinned this is the February concept art, or, you know, pre-order store stuff. And it got downvoted to oblivion, and most of the stuff was, why are you showing us concept art? We don't even know what it looks like in game yet. What?
Which is a very fair criticism.
It is. I agree. I mean, because, yeah, you're right. You're working on a rebuild. So unless one of your decisions is, are we going to scrap Unreal Engine? Your modelers could still be doing, technically, they could probably still be doing work if they're doing stuff in like ZBrush or whatever. I don't know what they're modeling in, but if it allows for you to transfer it between engines fairly easily, they could still be doing work while the back end side. What have they been working on?
It's the skeleton below it that's going to determine what engine it can go with. But that would be a ground of change. Just we're going to swap. It wouldn't be unprecedented to swap engines.
It's happened before. Yeah. Now, if they have to come back and say we're swapping engines, not saying they are, we don't have any proof of that. It's just a thought. That is something that causes multiple years of delay.
Oh, you've just doubled my estimate if they do that.
My 2022 estimate is now looking wow.
damn accurate
And
at that
again,
point.
if they do that, don't monkey with the engines.
Don't hold your breath.
For a reason.
Yeah.
If you buy heavy, keep heavy.
Yeah, we're all looking for answers or reassurance. Reassurance that the MMO is still being worked on, and answers as to
that's
what's
the word.
happening. Because APOC was supposed to be out in November, then it was supposed to be out in December, and then it was supposed to be blah 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 blah. All these things, all these things have been going wrong. Forums go down, referrals are gone. There's just so much going wrong. We need to be reassured that we're on the right track here. I think that's what we're all looking for from this letter, and some definitive answers of their direction. Are they going to redo their engine? Are they going to not? Those kinds of things. Reassurance and answers.
One of the things that they touched, and they actually had a few questions I thought was really, really cool, was they touched on the guild taxes again, which was similar to what we had talked about last week. Some of the questions that were involved, I'll try to throw them all together here. Says, so who gets the taxes from guild castles? The castle or the guild? And Stephen was like, both, because we had talked about that. So the guild can freely use this for whatever they want. And Stephen again reiterates that, yes, some of the funds they'll be able to do. I'm assuming there'll be some sort of discretionary fund that's required to, you know, hey, this much needs to go to whatever. And when a castle changes hands, some of the taxes stay with the castle and some of the taxes stay with the guild. So just what we talked about last week, they more or less confirmed that the guild castles will actually have a little bit more. So those who are actually controlling guild castles, I could see... This goes into like the BDO side of thing, where those who control the guild castles just had this obscene amount of money to really deck out members.
Yeah, you want to incentivize attacking and defending these things, right? Absolutely want to incentivize attacking and defending. My main question is, what is taxable? If you're within the influence of a castle node, what of your income is taxed? What of your transactions are taxed? Is selling stuff on the marketplace tax? Is selling stuff on the vendor tax? Everything.
Yeah. Everything's going to be taxed.
Now, this might fall under the feels bad man category. I sell this sword to this NPC vendor. If it shows in my UI that I sold this sword to this NPC vendor for this scrap sword for like, I don't know, 3 gold. And then it shows you a tax of 10%, 5%, 50%. If it shows you that and you can see it, I wonder how many players are going to enjoy something like that or complain about something like that.
I think it should show you.
It should show you. It should have full disclosure. Yeah, by the way, it's 15% of your profits from this transaction are going to the reigning guild or the reigning mayor. Players are probably going to complain about that.
I bet you they won't unless they want to incentivize someone to take over the node to get the taxes.
It's true. That's true. I'm thinking about the casual MMO gamer who may have never experienced something like that and their reaction to that.
They're not going to like it at all.
They're not going to like it at all. The hardcores are like, hell yes, taxes. I want to own the guild. I want the taxes. The casuals may not enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, jumping back into the BDO side of things, you owned a castle. They had items that were just so obscenely expensive, and they were even like time limited. You could use them only for like a week, but they were like 8 times more powerful than anything else. You know, they were essentially tantamount to like Tet or Pen level enchanted equipment. And the guild just had so much money. It's just like, there you go. You know, decking people out in this for weeks at a time. It was insane. Especially at this point in the game's life where it's been out for a while. So those who have been playing nonstop are established. Do you guys feel like... Oh, and I've been corrected. It's tri-level. My bad. Sorry, Shiro. Thank you. Still, tri-level is really high, but still, it's something really insane that they're able to get, even for a very short period of time. I wonder how they're going to... How do I want to say this? The guilds who have been there from the beginning, not the guilds who leave right away, but the guilds who are there for the long haul. Because there's going to be a lot of guilds who are going to join. They'll play for a month or two, or even a year, and then when the next hotness comes out,
like every MMO.
Like every MMO, yeah. There's very few guilds that stick around for the long haul of things. Very few. But those that do, I'm really curious how new players, like taking BDO an example again, we just started playing that. We've been having fun with that. But there's this level of, because we're new, there's so much we have to do to get up. To catch up. And honestly, it's such an exponential jump that the likelihood that we will be able to do certain things is almost null and void, especially given the fact that BDO is just kind of a stopgap between AOC. In the time that we have, there's a good chance we won't. How does AOC going to handle that with guild taxes? So say Crojack's guild, the murder crows, whatever, takes a castle and they can hold it, even if they lose it every so often, whatever, but they stay consistent and hold it more often, not even 40-50% of their total playtime in 5 years. They're going to have so much money, especially if it's a very popular node, such as one that's around a metropolis or whatever, that how are you going to displace that person? That going into the real world side of things, looking at like the big banks, like the Bank of America and stuff like that, smaller ones are like, yeah, we can't compete with them. Our only hope is that we can grab a niche market share.
Niche market.
And live within those bounds. Because there is no overthrowing those guys unless they have.
What we're talking about is something that was a problem or perceived as a problem with World of Warcraft, and that was catch-up mechanics, where you were given ways of catching up to current raid progression, as an example, in World of Warcraft. And some people hated that mechanic in World of Warcraft.
I hated
it. Some people welcomed it, right? But now here you are, as an example, looking at your guild in BDO, looking at the guilds way up there, seeing the distance, calculating the amount of time and effort to get there, and it's intimidating, the task, if not impossible, strictly from a time perspective. So you're right. 5 years into AOC, how could any new guild, a new player, potentially catch up to any of those established guilds? Will they give us, I don't know how, an avenue to get there, a method to get there, or is it just going to be impossible?
That's been one of the huge questions on my mind. Go ahead. Sorry, sir.
No, or is it going to be a server-wide event that will cause chaotic disruption? So we all start over.
Yeah, there's
not
two
a
ways
wipe,
to do catch up.
not technically
you get
a
the
wipe,
little guys caught up
right?
with the big guys, or you bring the big guys down, like you just said, that destruction. But that also feels terrible, You're a guild. You're working for 3 years. You build this up, and all of a sudden,
But a dragon hits your nodes, right?
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's good or it's bad because you're right. There's that catch up mechanic that you're just not gonna be able to do, and neither side likes it.
Yeah.
And it's also no fun to be on top for 3 years straight, unchallenged.
Yeah.
There's no joy in that. That's a good way to make a guild quit after a while.
That's
There's nothing
actually
to chase. Nothing
the
to achieve.
entire premise of Crowfall. Because don't you remember their Kickstarter video where they showed the game of Risk that goes over multiple years? And they're like, yeah, first year, everyone's trained to it's a lot of fun. By year 2, no one's really ahead, but these guys are kind of like pulling ahead. And it's showing like the first year, everyone's excited to play Risk. And this was a great video, by the way. And like the second year, you know, some people are still excited. There's the one guy who knows they're not going to win, so you can see him like he's just like playing with his phone. Oh yeah. Then it fast forwards like 5 years down the road. You know, Uncle Tom or whatever has taken over everything. Any new player immediately gets crushed. So no one's playing, and there's Tom sitting there with like his full military regalia on, but no one else is around the table because everyone left.
Right.
Yep. I don't know. I'm torn because one of the things I like most about MMOs is the persistence. I hate catch-up mechanics. I do. I because it does cheapen the experience for those who actually have went through it, but it can be daunting. I don't know if there is a right answer.
Well, I genuinely think that you have to have. I don't necessarily. I'm not saying that there should be catch-up mechanics, but I almost think that you either can't let the top dog get that powerful, or there has to be a natural progression in order to challenge, right? Because the main goal of the game is to keep it running and to keep it, a persistent world that people occupy, right?
So you're looking at the same problems with the free market.
Exactly.
Exact same problem.
Yeah, exactly. So if you go completely laissez-faire, hands off, somebody is going to eat everyone else. That's going to happen, right? So you have to do something to prevent it. It doesn't necessarily mean you could do it by bringing people down, bringing people up, changing the progression. Something has to happen. You can't just say hands off. Otherwise, your player base will eat itself.
It depends on their target audience. Who is their target audience? It's a gamer. If they're going and targeting casuals, they're going to need catch-up mechanics. If they're targeting the hardcores, you avoid them like the plague, because the hardcores want the challenge of chasing the top dog.
So that's what I argue. Even the top dogs, if you have no mechanic, there is only one top dog, one or however many it actually.
Or the guild or whatever.
Right. They will be in a position, where they cannot be challenged, basically, and your game will die off of it.
But if this is a game where multiple guilds can gang up to take down that top dog.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I get that in premise. In practice, it's completely different. Because what happened in BDO is the top 5 guilds or whatever it is, I don't know how many it is, they actually just take turns. They rotate because they're like,
Collusion.
we could go to war, but
Yep.
they just rotate. It's always the same ones because they're like,
The path of least resistance is the one people are more often to take, right?
I mean,
why bother fight? We can just rotate.
ESO saw that too. With the Emperors. They did Emperor trading early on. They're just like, hey, it's your turn. Pass it on.
I remember that. I was playing during that time.
Yeah.
Really early.
And, the hate mail you would get if you were a new player or someone who didn't know about the Emperor trading and you're, like, pulling ahead. You'd get messages, you need to log off right now. What? It's not your turn for Emperor. You need to log off. And if you wouldn't log off, they would intentionally, like, just stop attacking so you couldn't get Emperor.
Yep.
Like, there were... Yeah, it got bad. I don't know if you can actually change that because it's human nature at times.
And it goes back to the hands-on, hands-off approach of this game. How much are they going to let players dictate how things go with the game itself?
Yeah, it really depends. As of right now, from what I know about the pure PvP guilds, because this is mostly revolved around castle sieges, I don't get that from them because most of them like PvP for PvP's sake. So they would want the challenge. I don't think it would ever get to the collusion part where like, let's just pass it around because then that's not fun because then they're not getting to play the game that they want to play, which is PvP. So
So what'll happen is the leaders of those guilds will move on, give their seconds who want to pass it around leadership of the guild.
Yeah.
And then it's like giving your kingdom to your sons or daughters, right? They're gonna not know how to do it, how to build it, so they're just gonna do it because they can and pass it around.
Oh, yeah. I don't know when that actually became a good idea. Let's just pass on the kingdom to. I mean, hey, whatever. It's actually funny that you talk about it because the history lesson, Roman emperors actually adopted the most capable man into a family. So, like the Caesars, they would adopt. They weren't related. They would adopt. The only person who actually decided to pass it on to his son, Marcus Aurelius, passed it on to Commodus. And, well, guess what happened then? The whole empire tended to collapse after that point. Yeah. It's actually really funny when you think about it because they were saying how all these other men who were holding the emperorship in Rome at the time had this forethought, and then this one person's like, not really. None of them had sons, so they had to adopt. He's just the only one who actually had a son. Would the other guys have done the same? I don't know. They didn't have sons to pass it on to, but it's possible. But anyway, sorry, a little bit of history.
I want to roleplay. I'm not one to roleplay. I want to roleplay being a king of my castle, and I will hand it off to some other person in my guild who I will call my son, and it'll be a pass of hereditary. We'll have a ceremony in the guild hall. It'll be great. I can't wait to try it.
Nice. Speaking of castles and the cool things you get from that, there were a few questions about mounts and stuff because they talked about the February mount, the giant geode clam.
Yeah, I saw that. Thing. What on earth was that? It's so weird.
I'm pretty sure I saw it on, like one of the hentai films at one point because there's tentacles growing out of it.
I didn't know if it was a mount or a pet. I'm like, are there two pets on this one? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, no, it's apparently a mount. I guess you sit on its head.
Okay.
I don't know.
Alrighty then.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I guess. Anyone else want to make a funny comment about the Valentine's Day mount being a clam?
Not going there. That's all you.
Just said it now, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna lay that out there. I don't know what you're talking about. Clam. Nothing dirty involved in that. Anyway, so they actually said that's going to be a gliding mount. That actually brought up a few questions relating to flying mounts. Because someone erroneous said, oh, I'm glad that it's just gliding because we don't want to have too many actual flying mounts. And this actually brought in flying mount question where he said each server will likely have a dozen or so flying battle mounts at any given time.
A dozen? So you have 5 from the Metropolis, 5 from the guild castles, maybe
some from raid drops and stuff.
The raid drops, right?
They talked about like if you kill a dragon and get an egg, it will hatch and last for a while.
Yeah.
They said that most of the flying mounts, I guess all of them, are timed. And Steven elaborated on that a little bit by saying that it'll depend on how long it lasts, but they will be timed. And this could be affected by the animal husbandry skill. It's possible, but most likely no longer than a month, roughly, for dropped flying mounts. And that corresponds with the fact that castle owners and castle sieges are once a month. I like the idea of the rare mounts that are timed like that. So when you do have the dragon, you can role play your Game of Thrones Daenerys Targaryen.
It's an awesome experience. You get it for a stretch of time, but it's not game altering or game breaking on a long term scale.
Right. I mean, it's no
because
different
over the course of time. You start with 10, right? You got your 5 guild castles, your 5 metropolises. 5 years later, if these things didn't disappear, how many would be in the server? Right? Think about that. How many raid drops would accrue over the course of 5 years? You would have 100 dragons all of a sudden on the server. That would be game breaking. So I'm very happy the raid drops are temporary.
Right. No, definitely. I like that as well. And that's mostly, I shouldn't say raid drops. It should be raid drop flying mounts. Because who knows? There could be another, Valentine's Day clam. I don't know. I still think someone there at Intrepid, one of the concept art drew it, passed it off, and Steven's like, oh yeah, it sounds great. And he's like chuckling in the background. It was a joke. I didn't think you'd realize it.
Can we reskin the flying dragon with that flying clam and have it breathe fire, please? Okay, thanks. That'd be great. I want to attack armies on that flying fire breathing clam of death.
If you're clam is breathing fire, you probably need an antibiotic. Just saying.
So
Go see a doctor.
Oh man.
Wow. Okay. Finally, there was a little bit of news, or not a little bit of news, but a few other little minor questions about shop costumes, whether they're modular or one piece, and they actually were one piece, which if you're one of those people who enjoys mixing and matching stuff, you're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're disappointed if you're that kind of a person.
Yeah. I generally like everything to match, so one sort of fits me, but I've seen some pretty nice stuff.
I still want that answer. The one I keep asking. I got to get a hold of Steven. Can cloth costumes go on plate armor?
Mm-hmm.
I need to know.
Oh, we talked about that before, whether or not costumes are pay to win, if that aspect is true. Like, can I hide what I'm wearing by...
Especially because there is damage types in the game that's effective against specific armor. So if you can mask that, that's an advantage. I need to know that specific answer.
Yeah.
That's so important.
It's funny. Most people say that's not pay to win, but yet...
100% pay to win.
It is. It is. If
I'm
I
in
can...
plate mail. I take extra damage to crushing. You have a mace, but I'm wearing cloth. You swap off your mace to a piercing weapon or a slashing weapon, but I'm actually wearing plate. No, that's pay to win.
Yeah, and unless you're sitting there staring at your combat log and realizing, oh, wow, I'm doing less damage, you know.
And if you're staring at your combat log, you're not fighting very well, are you?
You're dead, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last question I'm going to touch on really is there was some question about Steam again, whether or not Ashes of Creation will be put on Steam. And there's some consideration currently if APOC will be put on Steam, but Ashes will not be on Steam. And I don't know why you'd want to. Steam takes 30% off the top.
I was going to say 30%. Like,
that's a
why
lot.
not the Epic launcher?
Well, yeah, that they take less, but still, they may get a deal on that. But still, think about it. Intrepid has to be very careful with where it puts this stuff out because with things like the referral system, they already have large sums of money being taken off of certain people. Like, I'm not saying out of everyone who's signed up, probably less than 20% are referrals. Most of them are probably independent people. So maybe
I imagine that will get even smaller as it gets released and stuff, and people just go to the website and sign up and stuff. That percentage will probably decrease.
Yeah, once the game's popular and out there, people aren't going to be looking and whatnot. So, but you still have to be careful. 30% off of your profits, then an additional 15.
Yeah. Steam makes no sense to me.
No. Some PC gamers, and this is something that's just weird to me, if it's not on Steam, they ignore it. But those are also the type of people who probably wouldn't be playing that long because they're playing for a few achievements on their Steam and then moving on. I don't get it. All right.
Steam has just built up this trust equity with the gaming community. That's all.
Right. Yeah. All right, let's move on to our discussion for this week as we're nearing end of time. It's the religious progression systems. This is interesting, and the reason why I wanted to highlight this. First off, I'm going to start off with a quote from the one, the only Stephen Sharif itself. It depends on their dedication to a religion itself, their performance when it comes to religion's religious objectives. Could have been worded better. Their contribution to the development of that religion within the world. There's a lot of different markers that we use at each stage to determine how they progress within the religion, talking about progression. Couple key points. Players can only follow one religion at a time. Religions will have a ranking system, and changing religion will cause loss of progress in the player's previous religion.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked about pre-show is the religion system just going to be another faction-based system?
Do you increase your reputation with this religion, become a level 1 in that religion, a level 2, etc., unlocking perks? But the one thing I did like, you change religions, you lose all progress in the previous one. If I'm worshiping Valhalla, or just pick a god,
Odin,
and I go, you know what, you're great, I love you, but this guy over here, he's my new bae. Of course he's pissed at you. Previous god's pissed at you. So yeah, I love the fact that you lose all that rep. That's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's pretty cool. One of the things I really wanted to point out there, though, when we talk about religions. I really feel like that's the least common. Why is religion that big of a deal? Other than the lore side of things, why would it have its own progression? And they explain it as a progression unless they were going to do something different. Faction-based systems have been done a million times. Why is it not just part of faction? Unless they're planning on doing something completely different with religion.
I think they are.
Passive buffs are easy. They probably wanted to do that, but more.
If it's like around lore, then I think there's something intrinsically kind of woven into the game. If you, what is it, with the religion aspect at least. So, like part of the lore before with this game was that there were certain gods. You know, you had your 3 gods here, 7 gods there, good gods, bad gods, and then world goes down. But I think based off of that, they plan on basically that they plan on weaving the lore, especially who you follow and who you profess your faith with, and tying that more heavily into the game rather than just you get faction bonuses. Maybe it controls who you actually, or where you can access. Maybe it controls who gets a boon, things of that nature.
You want to make it matter? You want to make religion matter? Dungeons, raids, progression, locked behind faith. You can only get into this abandoned temple if you become a certain, if your faction, your guild, whatever becomes a certain level of that particular area of faith, that particular religion. You want to really make it matter? You lock progression and therefore lore behind specific religions. That has consequences then.
It definitely does. I'm actually thinking and really hitting on to this one point of their contribution, development, religion within the world. What if, and I mentioned this in the pre-show, but this will be a fun one. What if the religion, the more you do for the religion, the more the religion spreads, hence like being a missionary throughout the world, and it forces other religions out? Are their buffs become less powerful because now they're just like an occult level religion?
Yeah, the power of your religion buffs being dictated based off your size. But like I mentioned earlier on, what happens when everyone just joins the same religion? Well, then everyone just joins the same religion and you let players make that choice. But like you said, what if certain players don't like those buffs and they want different buffs from a different religion? That could help to mitigate the whole everyone join one religion thing.
Yeah. It would be interesting, and I would really... And it could be something along the lines where they start providing maybe buffs are more powerful if you are an underdog religion, but more localized.
Yeah.
So think about it like this. Okay, you have one town that worships X god, whatever the case may be, and it's a cult religion. Within their zone of influence, they can summon forth those buffs. And when you leave that god's area, you can't access those buffs, but it's more powerful when you're in that area. Crowjack.
Do we want a game that potentially, through its mechanics, encourages holy wars?
Yes.
All right. Holy wars are good. We've decided this podcast backs holy wars. We support holy crusades.
I mean, I'm all for the eradication of elves as well, so might as well get... I mean, let's go to the Skyrim route. They got rid of Talos because he was a human god who achieved apotheosis, so I'm all for getting rid of the elves and expunging their gods.
Hey, I'll worship whatever god of war is in this game. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Let's just get rid of them. So, no, I'm all for that. I mean, that's the thing that I know in today's world, it's not very PC about it, but that is what is more interesting. Let's just face it, from a drama side of things, that's awesome. I mean, could you imagine Game of Thrones being politically correct? You
don't want your fictional fantasy to be everyone's happy, all hunky-dory, everything's good to go, everyone loves each other. That's not fun. That's not fun in our movies, not fun in our books, not fun in our video games.
Right. It's boring.
You want that drama. It's boring.
It is. I do like the idea of that religious buffs only affect the area in which your religion is. So that would encourage you to expand it out.
Spread the word of your god.
That's right. Because then those buffs are available in those ZOIs.
Yeah.
They have to do something different. I would really be disappointed with religious progression if it literally is just you get buffs, but it's a reputation system. I mean...
Yeah. Does the Metropolis have an official religion dictated by the people in charge of the Metropolis, and does that have real-world consequences based off of which religion that Metropolis worships? Curious.
It would be interesting. I'm really excited to see what kind of buffs are offered by the different, and what you have to do to increase.
Just gonna say, how hard do I have to pray? How many hours can I AFK pray to raise my religion? I want to AFK pray. I want to kneel in a pew in a church, AFK, pray all day, raise my god power. No.
I mean,
Everybody said no AFK stuff in this game.
No AFK stuff in the game, yeah. I don't know. I'm curious if, because we know from the religious node perspective that the nodes themselves level up through quest-based systems. I would actually hope that depending on the faction, it levels up different ways.
Depending on the god. The god of war, go out there and fight stuff. That's black and white.
I mean, it should still probably be quest-based because I don't want PvP to raise my god of war if that's not what I want to deal with. But
how else do you raise god of war?
You accept a quest that maybe it's only, go kill 500 people. It doesn't have to be, it can be almost like repeatables for that kind of stuff. But, you want the option of, if I'm going to kill someone in PvP, I'm like, Aggelos kills Crowjack. Your God of War rep goes up. Crap. That's not what I was working on. So you have to make that decision.
Right. You don't want to accidentally level up with a religion you don't actually worship.
Right. So you would be able to go to the God of War temple, accept whatever progression quest you have, and then you're gaining. I could still engage in PvP, but not have it affect me in that way.
Yeah, maybe the god of commerce requires donations to his altar. Like, I'm trying to think of other ways of doing this with other gods. Depends on what gods they choose.
The merchant god, just give money. That's
just he's a statue with a dude with a hand out.
Yeah,
that's the merchant god. Just give me money.
Holding a bucket, sitting there with a bell.
He's some beggar sitting there with a bucket in front of him. That's the statue.
Yep, boop. Drop it in, good to go, get your buff. It's actually funny. Other games have done that where to grant the religious buffs, there's like a statue. You just make a donation and you get a buff for an hour. I like that. Anyway,
that is awesome.
I don't know. I like the idea of, I'm a religious person in real life, so that's always fascinating when I look at religion and how it grows in general. But from a game perspective, I find it interesting. I love the idea of being able to go out and, like you said, be a missionary for it and expand your religion's power over the world. But again, do you hit a point where when the entire area is one religion, do the buffs become marginalized? So because it's active everywhere.
Yeah, you want to incentivize other religions to come up and not just be all one religion.
Right.
You gotta find some way to do that.
Indeed. All right, guys. I think that's going to be the end of this episode for this week. I think we had a fun little discussion with religion. I'm really hoping, Steven, you're doing so much with the game in other ways. I'm really hoping that this is not just a run of the mill.
Make it a system worthy of attention, worthy of us paying attention to it, investing our time into.
I really don't want to see it as just something that you have to check off. If you're a PvP player, get your God of War rank up to priest. Yeah. Definitely don't. You want an MMO to be alive, and you want an MMO to feel like it progresses. Allow these choices to matter. This extends to the social systems as well, the Thieves Guild, the Merchant Guild. As they're progressing, there should be tangible boons and banes to the system to
Intentional
encourage,
conflict.
to encourage you to go, wow, the Thieves Guild has really increased in this city. This place essentially is Chicago. We need to burn it to the ground.
Yeah, Thieves Guild goes up too powerful. Maybe we need to sweep in there and clean out some thieves.
Yeah, I agree.
That'd be fun.
Anyway, guys, that's our show. I want to thank my amazing co-hosts. We got Stormzord of Digital Piper Studios, Alpha Soul of the _Alpha_Soul, where he streams and does YouTube content as well. And of course, Crowjack. Follow him anywhere that's Crowjack. Right now playing Apex Legends and dying horribly.
Hey.
All I know is the bet is I have to become your #1 troll or you win 2 games in a row. And
Come to the after party. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will. Anyway, you can follow everything we do, DungeonCrawlerNetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon program at patreon.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork if you want to help support the show. You can also do that by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes to let people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words. Sometimes they matter. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of From the Ashes, and we'll see you next time.